Good morning and welcome. We're just letting folks in to the room here. We'll get started shortly. Thanks, Danielle. Yeah, as you're joining, just welcome and please do share in the chat which school district you're in, which organization you're with, and which school district you're in would be great for us to see. All right, I think we're about ready. Danielle, are we ready to get going?
Yep, go ahead.
Great. Welcome. My name is Giovanna Rossi, and I'm with Moms Clean Air Force. Welcome to this informational webinar about New Mexico state funding for electric school buses. This webinar is designed for school board members, administrators, CFOs, transportation directors, and really anyone who supports increasing the number of electric school buses in New Mexico. I'll talk a little bit about the health impacts of diesel buses and share information about the New Mexico funding available to school districts. Then I'll be joined by Dan Rosenfield, Southern Regional Manager at Highland Fleets, and they focus on planning, procuring, implementing, and optimizing electric fleets. So lots of good info there. And then we'll be joined by Ben Serrano from Las Cruces Public School District. He's the Assistant Director of Transportation and has some hands-on real experience with procuring and managing electric school buses. So that'll be exciting. At the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. And so we'll wait for questions until the end. And I do want to thank our partners today on this presentation, and that is they're on the screen here, but I'll just give them a shout out. Healthy Climate New Mexico, Sierra Club, Rio Grande Chapter, Conservation Voters of New Mexico, Education Fund, 350 New Mexico, and New Mexico Voices for Children, all partnering to bring this great information with Moms Clean Air Force and Highland and Las Cruces Public Schools. So thank you so much. Let me just move my slide here. So at Moms Clean Air Force, our mission is to protect children from air pollution and climate change. We envision a safe, stable, and equitable future where all children breathe clean air. We're a community of over 1.5 million moms and dads united against air pollution, including the urgent crisis of our changing climate to protect our children's health. We fight for justice in every breath, recognizing the importance of equitable solutions in addressing air pollution and climate change. So I'm here to speak to you today about the benefits of bringing electric school buses to New Mexico. And so really, we know that kids who ride an electric school bus get a cleaner, quieter, and healthier commute, while school districts save money on fuel and maintenance. New electric buses are going to be rolling into towns across New Mexico, and we want every community to benefit from cleaner air and a healthier ride to school. Oops, hold on one sec. I've got too many things going on my screen. Um, so some districts have received federal funding, and I'm not going to go too much into that because really we're here today to talk about state funding. But just so everyone knows, there have been federal programs that have allocated school buses in New Mexico already. Um, and there were approximately 1,850 buses that operated in FY25 in New Mexico. And there were 29 electric buses and 1,819 diesel or gasoline buses in operation across all school districts in New Mexico. So you can see we have a ways to go to transition to 100% electric, but we are making progress and we're excited to share this information today with you about the funding available for New Mexico. Just a little bit on the health benefits. Diesel exhaust is a toxic soup of gases and particulates, including 40 known carcinogens. It's linked to various detrimental impacts on human health. Children are particularly vulnerable because they have a higher respiratory rate and their bodies are still developing. Air pollution also impacts our ability to concentrate and learn. So, just a little bit about the health impacts here. Diesel exhaust is a known trigger for asthma attacks and other respiratory inflammation and irritation. And for anyone who has asthma or has a child with asthma, you know that this is a serious medical condition and requires urgent intervention. Um, I'm going to go over this very briefly just to say that um, the rates of asthma in New Mexico are here on the screen, and we can see that it's a real challenge. And in New Mexico, the prevalence is 7.2%. Adult asthma is 10.1%. And these numbers are higher in comparison to national estimates, and they do vary by geography and race ethnicity. And asthma is a leading cause of school absenteeism. Um, According to a study by the University of Michigan, public health epidemiologists estimate that transitioning to clean school buses across the country could result in 14 million fewer absences among bus riding children per typical school year. So the message here is loud and clear: electric school buses provide a healthier option. Diesel fumes are also associated with headaches and nausea, poor concentration, and children are at an increased risk for negative effects of air pollution, specifically diesel exhaust, because they have a higher respiratory rate and breathe more air per pound of body mass in comparison to adults. So now let's just look very briefly at the benefits, some of the benefits of electric school buses. Students and drivers enjoy a quiet and smooth ride due to reduced vibration and noise. Kids arrive at school more calm and ready to start the day because they don't have to shout and hear each other on the bus. And we've heard directly from school bus drivers on this point. Um, and we already discussed how kids who ride an emissions-free electric bus can benefit from improved cognition function and decrease in absenteeism. But also, electric school buses themselves can serve as an opportunity for science, technology, and engineering lessons to come to life. And we have seen that in several school districts. So, in comparison to diesel buses, electric ones require less maintenance over their lifetime, saving dollars that can be better spent in the classroom. Um, and they can be more economical to run, and we're going to hear more about that um, from our other guest speakers. Just very briefly on the opportunity for funding here in New Mexico. The Public School Facilities Authority is taking applications now. There's a $60 million fund, most of which is still available. And there's an application process that's open. We encourage you to apply at the website on the screen. We'll also put the website address in the chat. I think we can put that in the chat so you can click on it directly. Um, and the allowable use of funds for this fund, electric school bus purchases, of course, charging equipment, charging installation and site readiness, um, solar arrays, and related project needs. There's also a uh, there's some no cost technical assistance that's available, and we really encourage um, you to go onto the website and actually check out all of the information and the technical assistance that you can request. The application cycle opening dates, cycle one is over. Cycle two is open right now, and cycle three is later in the summer. So this is something to think about doing, right away, and working with your school district and your school to make sure that you can get in on these funds. So with that, I'm going to um, share again the website. We'll put it in the chat. The phone number if you want to call them directly for more information. And I'm going to invite on Dan Rosenfield from Highland Fleets to share information, and then we'll go to Ben Serrano after that.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Giovanna, and thanks everyone for joining. Let me share my presentation here. Um, all right, and just want to confirm everyone can see the slides. Cool. All right, everyone. So I'm Dan Rosenfield. I'm with Highland Electric Fleets. We do electric school buses. And so there are tons of benefits that Giovanna shared on um, air quality and health and student performance. But how do you actually roll it out? How do you actually operate the school buses? So I want to take a few minutes to share some of the more technical capabilities of electric school buses. Um, we work with all the OEMs, so Bluebird, Thomas, and IC. So want to talk about kind of the differences between those three, but mostly want to answer your questions. So I want to hear your hardest questions about electric school buses, every misconception you've heard, every horror story that you've heard, and kind of set the truth. Want to share some case studies on school districts that are really, really successful with their school bus deployments and how to take advantage of this really generous fund. So just some current challenges in transportation. If you ask your transportation director or your superintendent, they're dealing with driver shortages, they're dealing with retention, they're dealing with very high and unpredictable transportation costs. So even in New Mexico, when the school districts get an allocation from the public education department, they're still dealing with rising fuel costs, volatile fuel costs, different maintenance issues, and also aging fleets. So there is a set number of years that school buses are replaced, but they still age. And so electric school buses are modern, they're new. With this fund, you can get brand new school buses. So it addresses that challenge of aging fleets. In terms of the business case for electric school buses, if you're a CFO, transportation director, or superintendent, we're seeing school districts experience 30 to 50% cost savings. It's due to fewer parts and less maintenance. They're a more modern fleet, so a lot of the software can be updated over the air, remote diagnostics, and things can be updated and kept up to date. Better driver experience. So I would defer to Ben for more of a on the ground perspective. But if you speak to transportation directors and happy to refer you to some that have successful deployments across country, their drivers oftentimes are fighting over the school buses because it's quieter, the kids are coming to school quieter and calmer, and then reduced maintenance. Two funding opportunities. The one that we want to talk about is the community benefit fund. The key point here is this is the most generous electric school bus grant in the country right now. And so the state has really invested in electric transportation. And so, school districts have the opportunity to take advantage of this grant. It's also one of the most flexible. There's no requirement to get rid of buses. There's no requirement. There's a lot less compliance requirements. So if you're even considering electric, this is the grant to take advantage of. Some fast facts about electric school buses: 150 miles on a full charge. Realistically, you don't want to have the bus completely depleted to 0%. You don't want to charge it all the way to 100%, kind of like your phone. So realistically, you're looking around 120 to 140 miles on a range. So a lot of school districts, you're going to have out of town routes, field trip routes. Don't replace those with electric. Sorry, Giovanna, but you want to have routes that you can so your in-town routes. So you're approximately 20 miles up to 140 miles. There are plenty of routes that your school districts are already going on, and this is a perfect use case for electric. 30 to 50% lower total cost of ownership, less fewer moving parts, and quieter. So that's really the key message is there is a use case for electric. A lot of folks think that you can't go 300 miles. No, it's about 120 to 140 is the range that we're talking about. The ESV operation, it's very simple, but it's pretty reliable. It's the key point here is there's instant torque. So it's a really good in terms of driver handling, and it's a lot more efficient. With combustible fuels, I think diesel, a lot of the energy is wasted on moving the actual parts in the bus. And so there's a lot of money that school districts are wasting on the actual internal operations of a bus. An electric school bus is much more efficient, um, leverages fuel a lot more effectively. In addition, we hear that, oh, okay, there's mountains in my school district, so I can't have electric school buses. There's really only a 5 to 8% range impact due to those hills and mountains. So that's what we're seeing with school districts across the country. Even if you have longer routes, so maybe that 70 to 80 miles routes, even if you have mountainous terrain, the data shows and school districts are seeing that electric school buses can handle those routes. And I know there's some chat messages, so I may call on Giovanna to just like interrupt if there are certain questions that would be helpful and relevant. This is at Highland, we do electric school bus deployments across the country. And so the big thing that I want to showcase is in really hot climates, El Paso, South Texas, Florida, school districts are really having successful electric school bus deployments. There's over 140 school districts that are having electric school buses, and they're using OEMs such as Bluebird, Thomas, and International. The electric school bus industry is mature. The OEMs are invested in electric, and those same OEMs that you buy your diesel buses from, you can buy an electric model from. Some case studies of school districts, and for anyone on this call who is in a district who wants some referrals, happy to point you to some transportation directors who have really successful deployments. So Canutillo is in the El Paso, Texas region, Dallas ISD, and then Valley View, which is in South Texas. We kind of picked a nearby state to New Mexico. All of them are experiencing cost savings, and both with their school buses and their chargers. So Canutillo ISD, their numbers, not ours, are experiencing $500,000 in annual cost savings. Valley View is having about 48,000 in annual cost savings. But there are a lot of challenges when it comes to transitioning your fleet. There's a high upfront capital costs. There's lots of infrastructure involved, planning, permitting. unique charging infrastructure. You got to train your staff, the risk mitigation, and a really important thing that I want to emphasize is interoperability. The challenges with electric school buses kind of come from one of these categories. Thankfully, the grant is very helpful in addressing the funding and infrastructure issue. But our team at Highland hopes to address and really can alleviate a lot of these other issues. And when I say interoperability, that means connecting the charger and the bus. So it's not a electric school bus is not like a diesel bus where you just go to a gas station and plug it in, or if you're at your depot, you have a big gas tank and you plug it in. Electric school buses require interoperability and ensure the charger talks to the vehicle. And so that's where Highland comes in. We're a turnkey provider of electric school buses. So we apply for the grant on the school district staff. So we'll work with you on the actual grant. We'll do all the project planning, all the vehicles to spec. We do all the infrastructure, charging. We maintain the chargers, so you ensure they work. We actually will pay the district to maintain those buses. We do all the electricity as well, so you're only charging at the exact right times. And then can also do like battery and solar storage. It's really generous. One thing with this grant is as long as there's batteries that are supporting the buses, this grant also covers that. So very, very um, beneficial. And then we can also have a software, but again, it's turnkey. What that looks like is we guarantee the infrastructure is a 97% uptime. Your vehicles will be route ready every single day, and you're going to pay the exact same. So the grant covers the significant majority, but there is still some operational cost that will come out of pocket. But the major infrastructure, bus, construction costs are covered by the grant. And that's all. Thank you for your time. Want to take a few minutes to answer questions and hear from you.
Thanks, Dan. We're going to hold questions till the end so we can hear all the presentations and then we'll do Q&A.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I want to welcome Ben on screen from Las Cruces Public School District.
All right, good morning. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
All right, perfect. So I'm Ben Serrano. I'm the Assistant Director of Transportation for Las Cruces Public Schools. And I just wanted to kind of share our district initiatives that we have towards EV and, of course, just sustainability regarding our climate, but also just the impact that we're having for our students. Um, Just a quick data for our school district. We're about 21,000 students that we service, and out of those 21,000 students, we have about 10,000 that register for student transportation. But when we do our counts, it's usually about 6,000 that we do transport daily to and from school and home. And our fleet size on our bus, we have about 152 buses. That includes our Type A's and B's, and of course our C's for transportation. Um, and just initial a couple years ago, LCPS did adopt a policy ECF, which is a climate resilience and sustainability, which our school board wanted to lead the way in our commitment to environmentally responsible practices, support efforts to reduce environmental impacts, to improve resource efficiency, and of course promote sustainable operations. And so that is a policy that we have that I utilize a lot to help me when I'm writing these grants or applying for grants to show that the district itself is prioritizing this as an effort. Las Cruces Public Schools was fortunate enough to get the EPA grant, which was Clean School Bus in 2022. With that grant, we were able to purchase 5 electric buses, and of course the chargers that go alongside with it. When the PSFA, the state funding opened up last school year, I did apply for the PSFA Community Benefit Fund, which was the fall of 2025, and the process was just super quick. It was just a breath of fresh air to be able to work alongside somebody that was going to provide funding for us to support our initiatives. And with that, the funding that we received, we were able to get 5 EV bus chargers with the vehicle to grid capability. The previous chargers that we had did not have that capability. So now with the new chargers that are actually, they just got installed in May, they're going to be commissioned this week, if not next week. Um, we'll be able to utilize our EV buses plugged in there and actually return the charge back to the grid so that we get reimbursement from our electric company here, El Paso Electric. And then I did apply during cycle one because I do want to get 5 more vehicle to grid chargers as well as 5 more buses. And I'll highlight that here shortly as to why. The community benefit grant, the experience that I've had, like I said, has been amazing. It's been easy to navigate. The questions they're asking is just making sure that as a district we understand what we're going to be providing as operationally for transportation. And one of the things that I'd like to highlight about this grant opportunity that we have, and I know Dan spoke about it, is that this grant will help in covering the cost for everything regarding the project, including just the planning stage, the if you need architecture, like drawings, things like that, construction. They will happily support all those efforts to get that end result of getting electrified school buses. And at the end of the day, the PSFA Community Benefit Grant does support our district, my district, Los Cruces Public Schools initiatives, and our policies that we have in place. Um, in 2020, we did break ground on a operations annex. And with that, we did partner with our local electric company, which is El Paso Electric, so that we were able to get our operations annex grid ready so that we could pursue this initiative of creating, opportunities to have electrical charging units, and of course, making sure our grid would be able to withstand that. PSFA does provide funding. If you don't have a grid capability, they actually will help provide the funding so that you all can get with your electric company and actually build the grid system that you're needing at your school site or wherever you're going to be housing your buses, so that you're able to provide that charge for your buses that you're looking to get in the future. This is a current just aerial shot that I took a screenshot of. You can see we do have the 5 buses, 5 bus chargers that we had initially. And of course, we already had it grid ready at the build with the partnership. So now with the new 5 chargers that we got, we do have them installed on this east side of the picture, or actually west side of it, left side of the picture. We do have our bus chargers completely installed and now just awaiting commission. Here's some more close-up pictures of our infrastructure. I told you before, we do have the new ones that we got installed are vehicle to grid, so that our buses, when not in use, especially like on the weekends when they're just parked there, they'll be able to support the grid, but also provide electricity back into the grid for the city. And of course, in long-term run, we would be getting either discounted rates for electricity use or a reimbursement from the electric bus company. And so with that, I just want, like I said, it was just a quick preview of our initiatives and where we're at. And like I said, it's just we do have our 5 EV bus chargers that are currently functioning, and then of course 5 more that are coming now, and then our 5 electric buses that we have on routes for daily routes to and from. Thank you.
Awesome. Great information. Thank you, Ben. So helpful. And so I'm going to go ahead and facilitate the Q&A portion of this webinar. But I just want to start us off with a question for Ben, because I've talked to a bus driver who was overjoyed and so enthusiastic about driving an electric school bus, and she talked about the benefits of that, just personally, how she was breathing cleaner air and it was easier to drive, and just so many good comments from her. Are you hearing that directly from your bus drivers? Can you share anything
So
briefly?
yes, so just one thing that we did recognize when we do have debrief meetings regarding our bus fleet is the just the noise itself. They're not as loud. We were fortunate to pilot 2 Class A buses, but the smaller sped buses in our district this past semester, and One noticeable effect that we did see here from our bus assistant and our bus driver was that our kids that have a real, sensitivity to sound, that are on the spectrum, the autism, um, they would get on the bus and sit down themselves. They would not hesitate. They were comfortable, and that's a huge impact that we did see on our special ed students that we service. The sound of not having to hear the diesel engine roaring, they're not having to walk in with their, ears, covered or with headphones. They would just walk in and sit down as needed. So that is a positive impact that you did see. And of course, just that the cleaner air, of course, you're not breathing in those fumes when the bus is rolling, and that does have
Yeah,
an impact with our kids and our drivers as well.
great. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to go to some of the questions in the chat and in the Q&A, and uh, let's start with Steffi asked, for school districts powered by rural electric co-ops, have there been any issues with the very high charging rates, large load tariffs like the public chargers in rural areas are dealing with, especially co-ops powered by Tri-State? Um, Dan, do you want to take
Yeah,
that?
I can speak to that. Most of the co-ops and utilities have time of use rates, so there it is less expensive. And even with the tariffs, the cost relative to diesel is less. So yeah, our model
Okay,
is we include the cost of energy just so districts aren't having to deal with that, and we're able to leverage our other districts that we work with. But happy to talk offline if someone wants to look at an individual bill, but we're not seeing
great.
it. I,
Thank you. And Dan did put his contact information in the chat, so you can grab that. I want to go to Camilla's question. How are you handling ongoing maintenance and need for parts? And that might be a good question for Ben.
And that's a maintenance question.
Yeah, how are you handling ongoing maintenance and need for parts?
And so the five EV buses that we do have, of course, there's some glitches here and there. The majority of the time, they are Thomas built, so they will send us our whatever's needed to kind of fix what we've needed. We really haven't had any major um, incidents regarding like changing out a whole battery or something like that. It's always been just minor things like a light switch because the door switch, isn't functioning type of deal. But yeah, it's just working with our Thomas Built. We have warranty when we purchase the vehicles, so they will um, help with that. And if needed, they will tow the vehicle. Here in Las Cruces, we're close to El Paso, which is one of the nearest EV certified mechanics that we have. So most of the times our buses, if there's a major issue, they will go that way. Other than that, it's just handled on site with our bus mechanics themselves. And our bus mechanics themselves go through training um, uh, to work on electrical vehicles. That way, whenever the time comes that we don't have warranty anymore, at least our mechanics will still be certified and be able to purchase items that we may need to continue servicing and of course providing the transportation for our students.
Great, thank you. Dan, do you want to add anything to that? And we have quite a few other questions, so let's keep going
yeah, just happy to
if you.
share. The Highland model is we include maintenance. So we have techs, do training, and have a backup part. So if anyone has any specific questions about models, I see Thomas or Bluebird. Happy to talk.
Great. Okay. And then we have another question about, can we get a list of electric school bus vendors and perhaps their procurement process? I'm pretty sure Dan has that and can share whatever he has. So
Yeah.
we,
And just one thing on that in terms of procurement, CES and Sourcewell, which most school districts are members of, have electrification electric school bus vendors.
okay. And then what's required to make charging bi-directional? Are any buses in New Mexico using buses to store electricity when they are not being used?
Ben, you want to go and then I can go?
Yeah, so again, like I said, these new chargers that we're getting installed will be bi-directional. Um, but I do know that I've had conversations with other companies that do provide bus transport, electrical buses where um, there is that opportunity that we're going to look into that we'd be able to use our buses. So say one of our schools buildings electricity goes out that we'd be able to plug into and actually power the school building based off of the electrical bus. Of course, that's more like future, but the capability is there. And again, it's just one of those that you got to have that contact or communication with your electrical company, that partnership, and just letting them know like what you want, and that way they understand the logistics of that. So it just takes a lot of just communication, especially with the electric company, and of course your construction, and then of course the companies that you would be purchasing vehicles, with batteries from.
Yeah, not all buses and not all chargers are bidirectional. So, depending on the district, please talk to me and we can identify which specific chargers are bidirectional and which specific buses are. In addition, we're doing vehicle to building in a few districts as well. So that kind of is what Ben is saying as well. So vehicle to grid is when you're saying power back to the electric grid, but also actually powering a specific building. So we're doing that in a few districts.
Okay, great. And then there's a sort of a related question about the legal parameters around vehicle to grid. Um, Someone says, I understood a statutory change is needed to allow any entity or other residential solar owners to receive funding for sending energy back to the grid.
I know here in Las Cruces Public Schools, we do have MOUs in place with our company regarding whether it's it's not fully like say a reimbursement check, but it will be like a discounted rate for the facility that right now we're housed at the operations annex that we're building. So then returning energy to the grid will in turn give us a discounted rate, so that we're not getting into the legality of things. Of course, there is statutory things that need to happen. I think in the state of New Mexico, it's still very old school, and a lot of the policies and statutes that we have that we just need to kind of push our state, New Mexico Ped Department, but also DOT and just our state government to pursue and continue pursuing this way to modernize our statutes. That way, our school districts can function easier, while just seeking, electrical grids and electrical vehicles for
Yeah,
the.
one other thing is when deployed correctly, you can have smart charging. So, you're not just plugging in, ideally, you're not just plugging in the bus and it's just charging. It's optimized. And so, maybe just going back to the question earlier about time of use rates, large load tariffs. The really good thing about electrical buses is it is a very predictable load. So you can say exactly when you can charge, when not to charge, and optimize that way. So it can still be ready, route ready in the morning, but just not charging the entire time.
Hmm. Okay, great. And so someone else in the chat, Steffi says, my kids hated the bus when they were growing up. My daughter developed asthma and both my children got migraines. I totally hear you, Steffi. And I, used to walk my kids to school and they didn't ride the bus, but we had to kind of walk right alongside behind all the buses that were lined up idling. And so we changed our the way we were walking to avoid that. But a lot of kids were standing around, just breathing all that in. So I totally hear you, and that's part of why Mom's Clean Air Force is so committed and working on this to try to change that. Um, okay, and then related to rising temperatures, how will rising temperatures affect the range of buses? How much leeway do you have in the ranges, and what's the longest route you can manage? Ben, do you want to take that in Las Cruces, and then Dan?
Yes. So usually the five buses that we have them routed to, it's about usually, I think the longest route is so where Las Cruces is, we cover about 1,200 square miles, and so about 18 miles, 19 miles north of us is Radium Springs, so we pick up families there. So we do have one of our EV buses that's routed to that, and so daily it runs about 86 miles, but not on one charge. So what happens is they'll do run the route. I'm sorry. So it would be we do have connect our bus, at the end of the morning route, is what I'm trying to explain. So it'll do three routes: an elementary route, a middle school route, and a high school route on electric. And usually it's about 65 to 75 miles total. And then the bus, will get plugged in during the day, and then in the afternoon go out and do the same route from the high school back to those same families. So most buses we kind of keep them at the 75-mile range. Um, in the morning, 75-mile range in the afternoon.
And I'll just say we have school bus deployments across the country in South Texas and Canada. It's about less than a 5% impact on temperature. So you want to take that into consideration in terms of your range. But as long as you're well under that 130, 140 mile range, you should be fine. But not a significant impact. It's also separate batteries. One is doing the AC and heater, one is running the actual operation.
Okay, thank you. And we have one more question that I'll share in a moment. If you have any other questions, please share them now because we will be wrapping up shortly after all the questions are answered. So Charles says he understands Lake Arthur schools have two buses and their charger is installed on the wall securing their bus yard so that buses charge on the inside of the wall and the public can charge their cars on the outside of the wall through the same charger. Are any others doing this? Dan, do you want to take that? Do
Yeah,
you know of that?
yeah. We see some folks they want to use the same charger for public charging, and so think someone who has their Tesla and the bus. Um, First off, there's a big operational consideration and limit to that. Ben wants chargers for his buses. He doesn't really care about your Tesla, so it's really important that you get separate chargers for public and your fleet. So there's an operational consideration. Also, just fundamentally, charging companies have different business models. So, like, we just do fleet. We make sure that there's an uptime guarantee, and also it kind of protects the actual infrastructure. Public charging, those companies are optimized for revenue. So, there's fundamentally different business models. We are seeing entities do that. It's just not successful, and they run into legal and liability concerns.
And so just I wanted to piggyback on that. I know Lake Arthur, being a very small town, I could see where for that community, it would be a benefit. But our fleet, like I said, our chargers, we do have, 10 bus chargers now, and we also have seven regular car chargers for EV. Um, that we just use for our school vehicles because it's just like the whole liability thing. But also, I know we're in communication with our El Paso Electric again, and where we are actually going to be constructing right outside our central office a public facing charger system. But at the same time, it'll allow us to charge our vehicles as well. But then on the backside, charge, the public to utilize that equipment. And I'm not too sure exactly how we went about it, but there was a lot of meetings happening between the company, and then of course our district, our leadership and construction team to get to that point where we'll have that, and it should be construction should begin here this coming school year.
And just one other thing, this grant will cover infrastructure. So electrification isn't just a bus, it's a whole system. And so leverage the funding to take advantage of properly scoped infrastructure, get bidirectional chargers, get a bus that is to scope and to the specifics, and then, consider long term. There is separate funding out there for public charging, not through this grant. So use this grant, maximize the grant funding to get really good infrastructure that's scoped appropriately.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't see any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So I think we were able to answer quite a few questions. If you have specific questions about the grant itself, or what it can cover or how it would work with your specific school district, I encourage you to contact the NMPSFA, and all of their information is at the website, and we'll put that in the chat again. And there it is. And so definitely reach out to them, and we encourage you to apply this summer while the cycles are open. Um, we will be sharing the recording of this webinar afterwards with everybody who registered, and it will be publicly available pretty soon. So we'll share that link as well. I want to thank our panelists today, uh, Ben Serrano from Las Cruces Public Schools, and
Giovanna,
hold on, Dan,
yeah.
hold on. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to do a quick plug. I just remembered we're working with Roberts, who's the local IC dealer, to bring an electric school bus to Albuquerque in on July 13th. So if anyone is in the area, we're going to have International and then BYD. They're going to have two models of electric school buses. So if you want to take a test drive, contact me and we can schedule that. Sorry, Giovanna.
Awesome. No, that's great. And we can share that information as well afterwards. If you want to send that to me, we can send it out. Um, and so also thank you to our partners today for being on with us and sharing this with their communities. We had New Mexico Voices for Children, 350 New Mexico, Conservation Voters New Mexico, Education Fund, Healthy Climate New Mexico, Sierra Club of the Rio Grande, and of course, Moms Clean Air Force. Um, thank you so much. All the contact information is in the chat, and let's go forward with increasing electric school buses for New Mexico. Thank you.
Yes, and anybody on here, my email is there. Please shoot me an email. I know, like I said, I've worked firsthand with everything that's happening. If you want to just brainstorm, have a Zoom meeting, please feel free to just email me and we'll set up a time. That way I can just give you my side of everything on really, the realities of how we can energize our school fleet, even when it's a small rural town. It's definitely something that I do want to advocate and say that you all should at least put in for at least one vehicle to try it out. It doesn't hurt. The money's there. They'll fully, walk you through the whole process. So just don't don't shy away from it. It's incoming. It's working for us as big district. It can work for your small district as well. But feel free to reach out to me via email.
Love that. Thank you so much. And thanks for, yeah, Camilla says thanks for leading the way in Las Cruces. So awesome. And we'll send everybody the recording link after the fact. And please be in touch with the panelists. And have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.